And welcome back, everybody. Sorry for the 2 week hiatus, but we do have a super special guest, and not just any special guest, a super special guest today. Me, Jason, and we have the director of college scouting at James Madison University, Tyler Henderson. Welcome aboard, my friend. How you doing today?
You know what? With you guys, I feel great. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you, man.
Welcome, Ty.
Thanks for being. Yeah, we're super excited. We're gonna do a little bit of an interview with you here at the beginning. We'll do a little all-time college players draft, kind of in the middle, and then we'll follow it up with some baseball at the very end before we let you go. So, with that,
Perfect.
all that being said, Ty, before we get fully into the interview, just go ahead and kind of introduce yourself to the listeners and the watchers. Let them know what you do, how long you've been doing it, kind of where you've been prior to this. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, so for me, I originally got into college sports. I have a coaching background, right? So I coached at IMG in 2018. Even before that, I did an NFL internship. So kind of helped to find players like Jordan Mailata, um, Moritz.
You're muted.
You're muted, Ty. You're good. You muted yourself. So we heard Jordan
Um,
Malata. Go ahead.
yeah, Jordan Mailata, Moritz Baringer, who was drafted by the Vikings in the sixth round. And that kind of got me started because we trained at IMG, and I started working at IMG. From there, I went to Bowling Green as a graduate assistant. Um, Spent 2 years there, lost a lot of football games, got my butt kicked every single day, questioned my love of football along the way. There was a lot of dark times at that job, but a lot of good people. I learned a lot, grew a lot, and then I went to Columbia for a year. From Columbia, got to go to Florida as a graduate assistant and meet my current boss, Billy Napier. Was at the Swamp for 2 years. There's nothing like a Saturday night in the SEC in the Swamp. It's pretty cool. 90,000 strong, screaming. It's a really really cool environment to be in and coach in. And then my second year at Florida, I got into personnel. Um, and then left Florida, got back into coaching. Was on the our coaching network 30 under 30, so the top 30 coaches under 30. And then from there, got back into personnel when Coach Napier took the job at JMU. He asked me to come be the director of college scouting, and basically what that means is I'm in charge of all the portal players, so all the people that we would acquire from the portal. I would watch, give them a grade, tell the coaches yes or no. This is who we need to go after. Make a gigantic board. You guys kind of see some of it behind me. We don't have any players up there yet, just because we're still finding players and cycling through. But once we do have players that we like, they would go up there. I would tier them out, similar to a draft board, and then from there, we acquire players. So for us, there's a high school side, and then there's a college side. I'm in charge of the college side and making sure that we take the players that are good enough for us to take and that'll help us win games.
Absolutely, and that kind of goes into my next or my first question. When you're in the room with all the coaches and all the scouts, with kind of with the position that you have being the director of college scouting, how much do they sway your opinion compared to other people in the room? Because my assumption is, in this example at JMU, Billy Napier probably has the final say, but Billy Napier is always he's going to rely on his lead, director of scouting, his assigned scouts that go to specific locations.
Yeah, so I think you have to have a lot of belief in what you see, right? Like I tell people all the time, like everybody in the world's a scout, right? And how I know everybody's a
Right.
scout, like
Ain't that
you
right?
saw Annalisa one day and you were like, she can play on my team, right? It's no different. right? So it's no different than you see a girl at a bar or wherever you're at, and you're like, I want to acquire that draft pick. I want that on my team.
That is such a
So
good
I think you
analysis.
have to have,
I like that.
yeah, I think you have to have a lot of belief in what you see, and then ultimately like what fits for what you want, and like what are the pillars that your program is built on, or what are you willing to die with, like for me, toughness is such a key component. Like even in my grading, I have like a dog factor. Like if this guy's not a dog, I don't want him. Like you
Yeah.
have to be smart, tough, dependable, and I have to trust you. Like on 3rd and 1, gotta have it. We're gonna go get it. I think stuff like that you can't really teach. So a lot of the stuff is like intangibly, like this guy has it, this guy doesn't. I don't want this kid. Um, But I don't. I would like to say I don't really get swayed too much. Like I think you turn the tape on, you have some initial thoughts, maybe take a break and come back to it and see what you wrote down, and make sure you're
So
not crazy.
so
But
like when y'all are deciding on a player, right? Like let's say you're in a room, I don't know how many coaches y'all have, like 20 to 30 coaches somewhere in there. And what if the room is split like 50-50 on a player? Like what are the kind of things that you guys discuss, that Baylor Napier kind of looks for, I guess, to make that deciding factor? Does it have to be a majority rules type of thing, or what kind of process goes into that?
he is the judge, jury, and executioner of evals. Now you can sway him, right? Like he will. He does a really good job of. He'll take the coach's opinions, right? But he also trusts the personnel staff. Like when he got here, we were the first people he hired, right? Because he knows like he wants it built a certain way. Um, and I told you guys, off camera, the only reason why I have this job is because I'm willing to openly disagree with him, and tell him like, hey, we should probably go this route. This is the player that I like better because of this. Ultimately, like I treat my job as ultimately I have to help the head coach keep his job by keep providing him with players that win. But if we're all kind of split, I would say a couple key factors is years left, right? Does this kid have 1, 2, 3, or 4 years left? Room to grow, right? Growth potential, things like that. And then also, like, what kind of kid is he? Where does he come from? Um, does he
Background.
have verified like track times and things like that? Is this kid a multi-sport athlete? Things like that will ultimately, sway us one way or the other.
So I know we've talked about it a little bit. You're gonna have to help me pronounce his name, Ty. The DN Okiki, is it? It's a Okiki. Am I saying that right?
Chuck Windu Okiki.
Chuck Window Okiki.
Chuck
So
Windu Okiki.
you had mentioned some of, like, one of the things that you guys look for is the amount of time in school that they have left. With the way that football is kind of going in college football with NIL, is there consideration, like, what if a player might have 2, possibly 3 years left, but you guys think that he's going to be, let's just call him a dog, and then maybe he comes and y'all know that he's not going to, if y'all sign him, y'all might have him for 1 year before a bigger school comes in and money whips him. So that's taken into consideration, I would assume, as well.
Absolutely. So I think, right, like we're at the top of the G6. So there's players that we have that other schools, like, you know, we beat out some Power Four schools on some guys, right? Because they know that they can play here and they know that they have the chance to win here. But some of those guys are going to be a 1 year rental. And it is what it is. Like, win
Yeah,
now
because
is always going to be the mentality. And build your roster to win now and build the most competitive roster that you can. But you're going to, going in, I'm gonna have this kid for 9 months, and then I got to go make sure I earn my paycheck and provide his talent for the next cycle.
so I know, because JMU is definitely not, at the top of the big schools, but they're bigger than all the smaller schools. So, like, I guess
Correct.
that there's this term out there, and I want to ask you about it. I've heard it called as a feeder school. So you have these players that, like you said, are looking for playing time. Maybe they're going to be third string at, hypothetically Texas, Georgia, any school, but they're like, well, I want to play. Maybe they'd have to decide to take less money and go to a JMU knowing that they will get playing time, kind of up their stock again, and then maybe possibly transfer to another school. I think that's just kind of the state of the NCAA right now with the way that NIL is kind of incorporated into everything. So I'm not going to ask you about NIL directly, Ty, but I kind of want to ask you like with these agents, like what is the conversation with
Oh,
the
it's
agents
the worst
like?
part of my job. It's the worst part of my job. It
is is
is.
is it
You guys
basically
have no idea
uh, and
what I deal with on a day-to-day basis with that group of characters.
so I know an agent's
But
job
go
is
ahead.
is that an agent's job is always to try to get his player, his client, the most money.
Correct.
Is every single agent out there, they don't really care whether or not, oh, he's a top 300 player, he's a top 500 player, I'm still going to ask for top 100 player money? Because I like, what are the conversations like? Do these agents
Yeah.
are going to be hyping up their players, right? Like they're the best player out there.
Yeah.
You're not going to find anybody better. I'm sure I can only imagine the amount of times you've been cussed out, but just kind of talk about the different things you hear from agents, what they typically look for. Is there any special like how do you guys determine incentive, like do incentives get discussed when discussing, NIL contracts?
Yeah. So to answer parts of different parts of your question,
I know there's a lot.
yeah, an agent's job is to get their yeah, no, it's okay. To get their client as much money or in the best situation possible, right? My job is to give a player a grade. No matter what the agent tells me, I can't really, sway my grade, right? Like I think, like going back to what we spoke about earlier, you have to have belief in what you see, right? So if I say like, hey, this kid, Austin McQuire, I see this kid as a G6 starter, then I would say like we would pay this kid X amount of money. Whereas like if we see Jason Amos as a group of six, you know, role player, we would pay him X amount of money. And I think you tell the agent, hey, this is where we see him, and we love him, but this is where we see him. And like if you guys have more money, or depending on what the kid is looking for, then we may not be the fit for you. And it kind of is that black and white. Um, I can't really speak on the contract piece of it and the incentives. Different colleges do offer incentives, but I can't speak on what we
So
do. I will say that you know some kids just love it here in Harrisonburg. We beat out some schools just because the player was like, I love it here, even for more money. The kid was like, I just love this place, this culture, this place. Wanting to play for a coach who was been in the SEC and a proven winner, I think played into our advantage a lot. And the success that JMU had,
previously,
3 or 4 months ago
Yeah,
prior, being
absolutely.
in the college football playoff. I think that was a really attractive thing for a lot of kids, right? Where they say, let me just go play here for a year on a big stage, and then the dollar signs will follow me in a year.
absolutely. And so one of the things I wanted to ask you, Ty, is I know there's a lot of conversations going on with agents. How often do you guys, even when let's call it negotiations are happening with the agent, how often do you guys still get to talk to the player outside of that? Or is it you can't talk to them at
Right.
all? Do they come and talk to you guys? How does that kind of work?
Yeah, so there's a period of time where, like, that's why a lot of players have agents, because there's a period what we call a dead period or a quiet period where you can't talk to a player directly, but their agent can talk to you, right? So I may get a DM from an agent saying, "Hey Ty, this is Dave. I want to discuss player X," and then he'll contact me, and I'll be like, "Hey, how are you? Let's talk about player X." And he'll be like, "Hey, he loves you guys. Where do you guys have him on the board? And I'll say, "Hey, let me watch him. I haven't watched him yet. I can get back to you in 3 days." Right? And then I'll watch him. I'll say, "Hey, Coach Napier, this is Coach X. His agent reached out, or player X. His agent reached out. He likes us. I think this. You know, from there, I may ask the coaching staff, like, hey, I graded him this. What do you think? I may go ask the coordinator. If the position coach likes him, I may ask the coordinator, hey, this is what me and, Steven said about player X. What do you think? Right. And then when we go watch with our head coach, hey, this is, how we see it. But ultimately, it's his team, it's his roster. He's the final decision maker. So, but yeah, I would say agents reach out to me all the time, and they'll say, "Hey, what are you looking for? I have this, this, and this. I have a list of guys." I even spoke to Travis Hunter's agent in this cycle, which is really cool.
Shit.
Really nice guy, by the way. Really smart. And I would say the one hard thing for me is I think 40% of the agents that I spoke to are accredited, meaning like they are licensed agents, right? Where the other 60% are just street hustlers.
Those are the ones you
So
got to worry about, I feel like.
those are the ones that are a little bit more difficult just because
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
you
you don't
tell
know
the
where they're getting their
difference?
information. And
Like when you
not
start talking to
initially, I
them,
think you,
okay, okay, yeah, I was about to say is when you
mhm.
start talking to them, can you like immediately notice, or does it take a little while, or what lets you know?
One, like their Twitter bio may say like I'm a part of this group, and you say, okay, that's an accredited group. Whereas, you may talk to a guy and you're like, this is my agent, and you're like, oh, okay, this is somebody's cousin's brother's nephew that drives the bus for the team, right? And he just wants a cut of the money. So you kind of know how to talk to both sides, and try to
So
figure out
I
what's
I
best
want
for
to
your
I didn't.
team. And
Oh, sorry.
So go ahead.
Bouncing off of that though, like
that's it.
how do you specifically notice the difference? Because I know we're both black, so
Just kind of
we can
some
call
of the like
bullshit all the
the
time.
yeah, the just kind of some of the language they use, and like how like they want the contracts built. I think some of the vets are like, hey, what about this? Does he have like a something in this clause that says this? We're like, street agent don't care. What's the contract say? How much money is it? What's the guarantees looking like? That's all they really care
That's all
about.
they care
Whereas like
about.
a
Yeah.
good agent will ask like, hey, if this happens, can he get out of it? If this happens, what's the language that we want to use for this?
Okay.
So I think they do a good job of protecting their clients, um, in X, Y, and Z of like pitfalls of NIL. Like Darian Mensah getting sued by Duke, right? There would be some language in there that says like, hey, if this kid decides to leave, this is how we want it to look. So I think you kind of those really good agents have a really do a really good job of getting out of bad situations before they become bad situations. A lot of
Yeah.
foresight on their part.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
following
You,
after that, do you think that these college students that are going through this, do you think that they have good agents most of the time, or are they more
No.
like amateurs? Okay.
No, I
Great
think
question.
I think it's I think probably 1 in 3 are really really good, and the good ones like you appreciate because they you can talk to them and they will be like, hey, this is how I see it. This is what I see. Or even like, before players may enter the portal, they'll be like, hey, he's gonna enter in 4 days, but we like you guys. Let me know. Like if you guys want to do it, we can get this thing done and dusted fast. Whereas like, a guy that's not as good may say like, this is how much money we want, and it's like you guys are competing against. We're not competing against anybody for this kid. We can get this kid for free
So you
because
you just
like there's over 2,000 kids right now that are still in the portal that don't have a home because there's some of them just either got bad advice or their
right.
agents are bad or
they
what may
thought
have
they
you.
thought they were going to get
Go ahead.
they thought that they were going to get more money than what they probably are actually worth. So would you say
Right, and
that
sometimes
like
just take the deal, take the scholarship, and that's great because you can always earn
Oh,
money,
yeah
but
you
you can't
don't
I
always go to
can tell
school.
you from experience, please just take the goddamn scholarship.
so would you say right now, Ty, just with like the way that the landscape of college recruiting is the biggest I don't know if I want to say limitation, but that's the best way I can kind of word it. The biggest limitation right now for recruiting is budget, or I mean, what other factors do you, because I mean, the big schools, Georgia, Texas, Oregon, they're going to be able to pay the most, right? And most
Correct.
of the time, those are going to probably go to the five-star players. Whether or not they turn out to be five stars, a completely different thing. So, how do you guys? Is it position by position, just kind of the way y'all do y'all's budget? I mean, I think conference wise, y'all are by far the highest budget in y'all's conference, correct?
Correct. Like we got some playoff money from
Oh,
X,
that's
Y, from going to
that's
the playoffs from the
right.
last year.
Do y'all have to split that with the
Um,
conference or no?
yeah, but we got the highest rev
Y'all
share.
get the highest percentage of it. Okay. Okay. And what about just one more thing, Ty? If you could change one thing about recruiting, it could be anything. What would that thing be?
Whew. To answer your first question,
I know this is
how do we
a
kind of split it up? You think you have to decide as a head coach, do you want to pay what percentage of your money goes to high school kids? What percentage goes to your portal kids? That's the first question you have to ask yourself, right? So if
Damn,
you
it's
are a
difficult.
very heavy portal based coach, i.e., Lane Kiffin is a portal monster, right? He'll go to the portal, he'll get whoever he wants out of the portal, right? What percentage of his players from the portal is he going to pay versus his high school players? And I think the most important thing I think in recruiting is winning. People always want to play for winners. Winning will always play, no matter where you go. If, like Kirby Smart will always have a brand because he wins. I think similar to us having, Billy Napier, with him being in the SEC, him having a proven track record as a head coach at Louisiana in this conference and winning it multiple times in the Sun Belt. I think that plays to a lot of kids. And do we have the most money compared to the SEC? No, but I do think we have a brand and something that's very sustainable here. And I think in Harrisonburg is not a sexy town, but what it is, it has a lot of good bones. The um, the alumni here is extremely strong. They love this place, and this place sells out. And really cool tradition here. They call this place the best place on earth. I think the student body is great here. So I think when you get on campus here, a lot of the kids like it. Um, and what was your other? Oh, if I could change one thing about recruiting, um, probably I'd probably make the students employees of the school, right? Because then you can get out of NIL situations where kids don't have to get sued and all that. I think that gets really dangerous. Just and their kids, right? Like at 18 years old, if you gave me $155,000, there's no
boy,
way that I would
boy,
be the same person. And I do think we should make kids take financial literacy courses as well, so they understand what they're getting themselves into. Because then
100%,
you're taxed, right? It's not like I'm giving
100%.
you cash $155,000. You're going to enter a tax bracket. So I
Yeah,
think
A
there's a lot of
whole
that
different
has to go
tax
down.
bracket.
You're right. And then I would also say if we could get if every, and it wouldn't be as fair, I think, but if every conference had a budget and then you tiered it off by how you won, right? So that incentivizes your ability to win. So,
sure.
like, if you're in the Sun Belt, you get this much money. If you're in the ACC and you were the fifth team, you get this much money. Then how do you spend it?
And you
I
can't
think that'd be one thing that I would
Yeah,
change.
you're
then you
you're
couldn't really complain. You couldn't complain about not having the same amount of money when it's based on winning. You have to go out there and win and basically earn
Correct.
it. So I like that idea. Go ahead, Jason.
no, you're basically talking about like the budget in the NFL and NBA that
A salary cap.
the
Yeah.
NFL or not
Correct.
that the MLB is missing. Like there has to be a little, it got to be a little bit of cap on that. Like we can't just be throwing
Yeah.
everything around.
I'm curious to see where the future of
Yeah.
it goes for sure. I think right now just kind of how everything's playing out. I think there's a lot of room for things to kind of get a lot more chaotic than they already are. Uh, but time will tell. I guess we'll see. Ty, before we finish up this part of the interview, I have one question I want to ask you about the SEC, and then I gave Jason some questions to ask you that are a little bit more fun questions that aren't football related. So my question
Cool.
is, in the SEC, who who has the best home field? But you can't say Florida because I know you went there. The best stadium. Give me the
Yeah.
best
Uh,
atmosphere, stadium,
Best stadium,
everything.
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Tennessee, I think is
Interesting.
unbelievable to go play in.
Interesting.
They have a DJ. They get the crowd noise going. I remember walking into Tennessee, and obviously I'd never been there. And that Florida Tennessee rivalry is a very important game. Like, we drive into the stadium, people are screaming, they're flicking you off, "F you," this and that. And even like walking in, I remember like getting like booed heavily, and it's 102,000 there. Like Rocky Top is a real thing, right? And I remember walking because you enter the stadium and you have to take a right to get to the away sideline. And the guys in the polos and the khaki shorts that are a little bit too short with the Sperry saying some wild stuff to me that you can't obviously repeat. And you're like, there's just no way that you just said that and stood on it. I think they have a really, really unique environment, though. I think playing there is a really, really cool place. I would say them and LSU are neck and neck. The Cajuns at night,
Oh
they've been drinking a little
yeah,
bit, make
LSU.
it a very, very hard place to go
I can
win.
expect that LSU will be ignorant as shit.
Yeah, especially if it's at night and they've been drinking since 11 a.m. It's a hard place to
You
go play and
damn
win.
right. As soon as you walk out
And just
that
the pedigree
stadium,
there. It's
Well, let me
Those are my
say
two favorites, I would say.
this, Ty. I'm gonna try my damnedest to make my way up to Virginia this year and come watch a game down in Harrisonburg with Annalisa. By the
Oh, it's
way,
fun.
I'm
We
gonna
got to give you
finish
some
my
Harrison
streamers.
Harrisonburg is in Virginia.
correct.
Oh,
It is.
I spent 5 years
Jason
in
went to
Virginia.
I was about to say Jason had a little bit of time there. All right, Ty, good. Hey, thank you for this interview, man. Thank you for your time.